Okay. I think YouTube might have heard me now. Is Twitch coming through? Refresh everything. I think I've got to, like, I don't know. Okay. Okay, things look like they're okay now. Let's see. Blah, blah, blah. All right. I think we're probably good to start. So, let me just move everything how I like it. And then we can dive in. I haven't looked at this since last time. So, I remember we had like a segmentation for what do we have not here? Context deadline exceeded. For some reason in my memory we had like a null pointer exception or something like that. I just ran this right now. And now I'm confused. I thought I had like a null pointer exception. Was it always a context deadline exceeded? Now I'm questioning my memory. Probably it was. No reason why it'd have changed. Now I'm curious of checking the end of the last video just to see what it was, because I could have sworn it was like a null pointer exception or something. So we're hanging. Now I think about it, hold on, it was hanging last time too, so it probably wasn't a null pointer exception, because if it was a null pointer exception, it wouldn't have hung. Right? It would have just crashed out. Probably in my memory, I saw panic, and I assumed the worst. So, let's dive into this then. Let's get comfy. So, am I comfy? No is the answer. But we can get comfy. And we can dive in. So, we... I think we did the first thing last time. A job is not claimable early. And I think this fault was us trying to make a delayed job not run early. So, what did we do? What did we do? What did we do? What did we do? And as always, my fans feel like they're going. And I just want to validate that that is just OBS. Okay, I think it is just OBS. Um, so we're continuing with the worker system. We need to fix this bug as to why it's crashing out. And I know one of the things I want to start working on is making things idempotent, idempotent. Essentially, I want to make it where if you run multiple invocations of the same job, that it doesn't necessarily cause multiple instances of the job to be processed. So I think I started that technically last time when I was a bit lost as to what I was going to prioritize. By starting to create the unique key when I was creating the canonical ID for tracing purposes. The unique key will be an optional field for making the execution of your jobs idempotent. And the reason why this is so important is, let's say you have a network blip or any sort of blip or logical fault when you're calling your jobs to be executed. You may want to ensure that that job doesn't run multiple times, but that action isn't necessarily an error. And by running the job multiple times, you will receive back the same ID. And so you can action upon it as if it's a new invocation. But you're actually reusing a previous invocation for an existing instance of the job running. And like I said, the idea is to avoid, say, a harsh error crash out, because I know that's quite common with these things when you give them a unique key. It's quite common for them to give you a hard error crash out, and then you have to handle that crash out and say, oh no, I knew this thing, and then handle the blah-de-blah-de-blah, right? So there's two ways that we want to do this. The first way is the unique key method. And the second way, I think, will be the ability to say, if this job has been ran with these arguments, then treat that also as something to dedupe as well. But that would be like an optional thing that people have to opt in to enable. So the first thing is to fix this fault, and I think I remember saying last time, I bet you it's just a simple terminal up. The thing is that I used to always use I used to always use exhaust struct. Golang CI run. I always have to look at it in another. No, so let me just first of all, internal worker. Let's look in here. I always get it wrong. I always want to do Golang. No. Golang lint run. Thing is, I have a love-hate relationship with this tool. Because I don't know why, but it never seems to work with my exhaust. Have I, like, done something weird and, like, it just doesn't work properly? Maybe it's that include. Because I used to always call it manually. But I'm worried it's going to be too verbose because I think I'm behind. Do I just do it like this? I think I'm behind. I need to install it again. Gaijin.team. Is that the one I'm using? I don't seem to remember that. Gaijin.team. Um. No effect. Like. Print version and exit. Gaijin.team. I want to validate. Do I hit? Can I? I should open up my Firefox I can use for the stream. Then I have to link it in OBS. I'm now wondering if this is the reason why Golang CI is so bad with this just struct. What do you say you use? Okay, use the Gaijin one. Okay, we'll trust the Gaijin one. So let me reinstall this for the latest version. I haven't got my full setup working, so I need to be able to move between scenes easier. Okay, my stream deck is broken. Okay. Might need to restart the computer. I'll just do it manually. So, I'll install this gauge in exhaust struct. See, this is what I fear, is it just comes out like spam because I've not been doing this enough. I need to look into this at some point because the worst part of Golang, in my opinion, is that there is no easy way to enforce your exhaustiveness of implementing the entirety of a struct. And for some reason, when I add it to Golang CI, it just... I don't want to say doesn't work, because presumably I've done something wrong, but doesn't work. Yeah, I don't do it in test files. Let's see what I have here. I bet you this is the problem. It's the include. Does that make it probably clear so you can see? Does the include make it... If I take away the include... Flickering light. Oh, the include fucks it. Exhaust struct. Oh wow, look at all that. How much this is exhaust struct? Exhaust struct, exhaust struct. Exhaust struct. Okay, I need to... I have a lot of linting things to fix then. Because the thing is that, in my opinion, this is one of the most... I guess we're going to have hundreds of errors now. I felt my CPU jitter the audio I'm listening to. So that's never a good sign. Is there a reason why I did the include? I know the reason. Oh my god, 5,000? I'm gonna need to use AI or something to do that. Because otherwise it's just gonna take too long. The thing is I do like this level of exhaustion. I use... but see, I don't... See, here's the thing. Is, what I want with exhaust structs, and this is always how I was using it before, and that's why there was the include, is I want it to exhaustively trip up on my structs I have created. But when it comes to third-party structs, like APD, I don't want it to warn me. Because to me, this is fluff. There's no reasonable reason why I should, in my opinion, should exhaustively implement those structs. But the reason why, if I shove this back in, the reason why I like exhaust structs so much is it forces you to list things, and by forcing you to list things, it forces you to notice that you're properly carrying down all the variables like you You should be. Yeah, only 23 issues. And I bet you none are exhaust struct. So this whole include thing was bogus. Drat. I think the reason why I added it is because I had similar logic when I was running the CLI tool for exhaust struct myself manually. Because what I used to do before I started to use Golang lint CI was I used to just have a bash file which would just execute all of these linters directly. And I don't want to say that was working better, but it was working better. It was working better. This, see, I'm sure that, you know, some of these things I'm missing are indicative of potential issues. Annoyingly, like last time, my bowels are starting to tell me not long after starting that they want attention, but we'll see how long we can go for. I might have to have a break again. Annoyingly. So, well, this looks like an error. This is probably initializing the service, if I had to guess. And it's saying when I initialize the service, I'm not throwing down most of these things. Remote interval. That sounds necessary. Let's test that. But yeah, I think the whole struct thing is the biggest foot gun in Golang, in my personal opinion. I think it's more of a foot gun. I think it's like, you know, when they say Neil is the $1 billion mistake. I don't want to say that the struct system in Golang is a $1 billion mistake, but it's $1 billion in terms of how many errors it causes. Where am I going? I want to go to service.go. So my theory is that when we start the service, which is probably, let's see, new service. Oh, here we go. Is it here? Promote interval config dot promote interval. Let me guess, this works. I'm gonna find my command without exposing anything in my history. It works. It works. It works. It works. So that's an example why exhaust struct is such an important linter, and why I need to spend some time figuring out how to configure it properly with Golang lint CI, Golang CI lint run, whatever. It's too long of a name. It's got too many things going on in the name. I was going to execute a command, and now my mind's gone blank. Oh yeah, I was going to update the stream. So, next thing is the dedupe thing, and I am going to use this as an opportunity to go to the toilet. Okay. All right. My gut has been overworking for the past few days, so let's focus on what needs to be done. So we now have delayed jobs running on time. We're slowly getting to a point where parts of the system are actually starting to do something. Okay. So let's call this dedupe test doggo. I need to I'm still not like sitting properly. I set at a weird angle if it's not obvious. Like my table meets here, and it's because my camera's there. So it's an awkward angle because I'm sitting at the edge of of a corner. Because normally I sit facing this way because that's where the actual computer is. So it sometimes gets me a bit a moment or two to actually get comfortable. Okay. So we wanted to handle dedupe, idempotency. It's one of those words I never know which letter to emphasize. It's idempotency or idempotency or whatever. Either way, the point is you can rerun the same thing and expect the same result. So if you rerun the same job or the same key, then you'll get the same result back, which is the job information, the job ID, the internal one. I'll have to see if those are two concepts or separate concepts. Ooh. So we would want to come up with the concept of what it is we're testing. So this will be another runner test. So say duplicate, unique. Can I spell unique? Unique. Duplicate, unique in queue, collapses. So, if you duplicate your NQ, I don't know what I did. I thought I would have imported, but that's... Shall I just execute it? Okay, import. Collapses into a single. So if you make two invocations, it will collapse into a single execution. But they will both receive the same response, so that's why it's idempotent. So you perform the same action, you get the same response, no matter how many times you perform the same action, right? So they receive the same response, it collapses into a single request, and is effectively deduplicated. Even though we're not deduplicating for performance or disk optimization or anything like that. We're doing it solely because, well, for two reasons. One, it allows the user, the developer, to mitigate network hiccups and such. Or alternatively, like, when they retry something because something crashed or whatever. Or alternatively, it allows us to have better developer experience than some of these other tools, which just throw you a fatal error. Or I think of Experience One, which threw a panic if you try to repeat the same ID, which is a very coarse error. A panic is a very coarse error. So we would like to have smoother errors. Well, we're not errors at all. I'm just looking at the screen. No errors at all, smoother experience. So, you try to run the same thing again. Well, here's the response from the first one. So, if we go to run the test, we can see how these things are normally constructed. As such. Right. So the recording worker allows us to prove how many times the job ran. So it would basically be something like, I don't know, first to NQ, second to NQ. So first handler, second handler, user one, because we're repeating it basically. And for this test, we don't want to get fancy. We're not going to be checking arguments or anything else. But you'd be able to say something like worker with floating off into the distance, because I'm trying to, as the saying goes, the two hardest things in software engineering are, naming things. I've forgotten what the second one is now. And the third one's off by one errors. But I'm on that naming things part. So, because see, what I would do is something like this idempotency key. But I'm wondering how good or bad that developer experience is. I think most people who use Golang know what idempotency is, even if they're like me and can't agree on how to pronounce it. And I think that makes the intent clear. Because we could say something like, I don't know, welcome user 1. And then this can repeat the same key. So obviously this doesn't exist yet, that's why it's erroring. And then we could validate that these things have given us the same ID reference. Because that's a core part of this. So it'll be something like require equal t expected first handler dot ID, second handler ID, dedupe did not collapse. Then we can do our wait. I'm wondering if I should put the run further down, because the risk is it actually processes this. I actually want to queue both before we process them, just to make sure that they're considered for this test to be in-queued at the same time. And then we'll wait for the first one to finish, which should be the same as the second one, so we don't need to double wait. And then we'll validate that the actual thing only ran once. Dedupe. Collapsed the second in queue. So this won't work yet, and that's because this doesn't exist. This concept doesn't exist. Before I dive into this, I just want to pause just to think internally if this is what I want to do. I'm trying to think of the messaging here, if this is confusing. You see, technically, on a very technical level, ID potency key actually implies more intent and more purpose, and correctly implies what is actually happening. Whereas with unique key, fails to imply anything. The only problem is that one requires slightly more understanding of computer science as a terminology. But I think Golang developers are a safe bet that they should know these concepts. Anyone who's been hired professionally should know this terminology. Because I'm thinking that unique key, which is what I'm calling in the database, is the internal concept, because internally it doesn't imply the intent, where this does, because it's developer facing. I don't know if it's one of those things I should have an alias. I don't like the idea of just creating an alias just to have a more human readable version. Let's see. I mean, one option is saying with idempotency instead of what with idempotency key. With idempotency. I should figure out how to say this word. I always say it differently. I think the problem is I've done lots of work in international teams, and when you work with international people, they always put their own spin on these words, in their native language, their native accent. And so I've heard this word 50,000 different ways of being pronounced, without any consensus. I think I'm going to take the bet and do with idempotency key, because it really does imply, if you know what the word means, you understand what's going to happen now. Whereas with unique key, while it's more friendly, it doesn't give any sort of understanding of what it's going to do. So I think I'm happy with this. I already started wiring this in last time to an extent. But because last time I was a bit more confused with what I wanted to prioritize. So let's say we have with worker ID. No, that's not what I'm thinking of. Sorry. Back up a second. What am I doing? Did I not start this last time? Oh, we have the correlation ID. Oh, I thought I added it when I added the correlation ID, but I might have only added the correlation ID now. Think about it. So that's for tracing purposes. For open telemetry. Now I'm thinking I didn't add it last time. And yeah, correlation ID, I need to add a comment there. I need to add comments. Missing comments. I'm just thinking to myself, just before we really dive in, how I am actually going to want to wire this up. I think one of the things I'm going to have to figure out is if the unique key is a different concept from the ID. What I was expecting to see was that it was a different concept and that the unique key is effectively a label. It would mean that the ID can continue to exist in its stable ID generated structure because we have the ability for people to plug in their own ID generator. So by keeping them separate concepts, the unique key can be effectively a label on the job. The ID of the job can remain generated by the ID generator. And we can put an index on the unique key, which, yeah. And it would be an optional field in the database. So it's ultimately just going to be like this for all of the tables. So unique key. This is Postgres. I'm probably just going to focus on SQLite for now. So there's no harm in replicating what I do to Postgres. I'm pausing for a second. I'm just checking. 1, 2, 3, 4, 2 index, 2 triggers. 2 index. I'm not dropping my indexes. I'm probably going to have to tidy this up afterwards. Let's not worry about that. So, index. Wait, well, what is this? Is this Postgres or is this SQLite? This is SQLite. Index jobs unique key on. This will be on jobs because we don't have to hit the index because it's on the root. Unique key. Where unique key is not. It's not what I expected you to do. Is not null. Nuck. Null. Okay, now let's copy that over. Where's Now in the Postgres stuff we prefix it with a worker because we share the same database with many contexts. On worker jobs, same concept here. I can, okay, whatever. On worker jobs. Okay. So, time to regenerate the doll. I need to have high concentration. I have my laptop to my right. And I keep looking over at it. Keep looking over at it. Okay. That's all good. Now, let's think of the queries that we're going to have to do. So, SQLite queries, stick it in here for now, even though I will want to actually split these up into different files probably fairly soon to make it more organizable. We're going to want to add a unique key here and an extra question mark. And these all inserts. What I'm going to want is like pico.query name get job ID by unique key command 1 select ID from worker jobs that would be if I was doing Postgres right now, which I'm not. So from jobs select ID from jobs where unique key equals question mark limits 1. Correct? So the Postgres is quite simple. Where did I shove it? I shoved it under stale running jobs for some reason. Stale running jobs. And then that would be worker jobs. See if the DAL is happy with this. Error. Oh yeah, of course. I made it so that for the different engines, I preferred their variable invocation methods like, or interpolation methods like this. And that was so you could copy and paste this and dump it into whatever interface or whatever it is you use for that database engine, because then it'll give you a pop-up modal asking for that value to be filled in. So you have to put it in as the way that that engine likes it to be. So did I add it unique ID up here too? Sorry, it's unique key, not ID. Now, hold on, I'm being stupid. I'm being stupid because it's better to enforce this on a database level than, even though we'll try and enforce it on a software level. Hi, Lane Hogan. Yeah, so I normally use Goland, but I'm using Z on stream because it's I have all of the interface nicely set up for the stream. So but I've been enjoying Z quite a lot, if I'm going to be honest with you. So there's a chance I might end up using Z as my main IDE going forward. I just have to get used to its quirks. And when I say its quirks, what I really mean is I just need to learn to use it instead of Goland. Yeah, I when it comes to Z versus VS Code, I don't see a reason why you'd use one over the use VS Code over Z, because at the end of the day, you don't even have the argument which Goland does, which is obviously they have a pretty complex introspection engine, which Z doesn't have because it just offloads that to GoPlus, which VS Code does as well, right? So they both depend on the quality of the LSP that they're using rather than actually being able to do anything themselves. But yeah, VS Code is such a hog when it comes to resources, while also being pathetic and useless. um But Zed's great. I think my favorite part of Zed is just the interface looks so clean and modern. I don't know if the person behind it is like an interface designer, but it's really nice. Yeah, and that's another reason to be concerned of VS Code is that I think, this is my personal opinion, I think as the barrier of creating software goes down, what you're going to see is more malware in the industry. And VS Code depends on so many plugins to be useful. Oh, it's made by the Atom folks. Oh, that's interesting. I mean, they're slightly responsible for all of the Electron rubbish we have these days, aren't they? Because I think Atom were the first big ones to do it. And that's really interesting. I didn't know it was behind the Atom people. It kind of makes sense. I remember when Atom was released, that was also a pretty beloved interface. Oh, that's good. But yeah, I think as time goes on with the barrier to create software goes down, it becomes obviously really easy to vibe out a plugin for, say, VS Code or whatever in an evening. And so much so with what I've seen developers use VS Code do, which is just install hundreds and hundreds of plugins. You're just going to be installing malware after malware. Sorry to say. It's better just to have an IDE where you can just tune it to be whatever you want it to be with as little change necessary. Yeah. And Z is actually surprisingly good without needing too much added. When I started, I used to do all my development in Notepad. So, literal Notepad in Windows. So I was very thankful when I started to use editors that had colors. um, so what I was thinking was I'm being silly because with this way of doing it, I'm going to be relying on software when I could have the database assist me in ensuring that things are set up properly. And so what I think I'm going to do is have a whole different insert query for when we're passing in a unique key. And the reason is then we can do in conflict management, on conflict management. So insert job root by unique key with unique key. With unique key by unique key. On conflict, insert root job root with unique key. We have to play the counting game. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So this should be 9. On conflict, unique key, where unique key is not null, do nothing. Returning ID. So this is one of those moments where I have to pause because sometimes the behavior for returning can be different with Postgres and SQLite, and I'm trying to remember if there's anything I have to do differently between both of them. I think I'm just going to have to see what error I get. So we're going to get rid of unique key, play the counting game. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Insert job root with unique ID, with unique key. Okay, let's see at the very least if the DAL generates. Oh, okay, nope. That's a lot of errors. That's a lot of errors, but I'm confused. That's a lot of errors, but I'm confused as to why there would be errors. I'm worried that this error is I don't want to say a false error, but I'm worried if it's tripping on something it shouldn't. And it's actually an issue with my generator because one of the things I've been confused, and I'm going to have to double check what my generator actually does, but I don't think it should be tripping up on if there's code issues. Like that shouldn't stop it from generating code. Because now I don't know if, yeah. See, that's a bug. I'm going to have to write that down. Pico bugs. I got a file somewhere, Pico bugs. I think I put it down here. Issues with Pico, high priority. If you have a bug in your code, in this case it wasn't actually a bug, it was probably a bad previous generation, which caused a bug technically. If you have a bug in a code and Golang is govet erroring, you cannot generate query dull code with dull generator, or probably with the generator query. The generator should not concern itself with the health of the codebase. Because then you just, if someone made a bug with a previous generator, now you're stuck until you fix it manually if you want to regenerate to fix, which is just horrible. So insert job root, I'm going to want something similar to this. I'm curious how well my thing generated the new thing. All the typing looks good. Ah. Hold on. 1. I wasn't handling its return. So let's say 1. Let's try again. Because right now we're just returning error. Oh, here we go. Now we return the row. We have a bug. We have a bug in Pico. Or a second bug. We have a second bug. So this is a blocking bug. This should probably copy the entire thing. Oh no, wait a minute. Is this a bug? Sorry, maybe I just hold on. No, it is a bug. It is a bug. This isn't nothing here. It should what it should do is it should say something like ID string. Now the question is it a bug in Pico or am I missing something from the database? I think it's a bug in Pico. This generates this is a bug because it should probably generate something like it's funny how that colors it in Go and that doesn't. Or is it all it's all getting confused because it wants it to be like this. Okay. We're going to be diving into that, I think, momentarily because without this, we're probably not going to be able to finish this task. Okay. If we're to fix this, I would jump back over to the master branch and fix it there. And then rebase our work back on top. Because what we would have wanted to... I mean, maybe I could just do a second follow-up query. That's the easy way to do it. Because I remember returning often working differently in SQLite and Postgres. And I can never remember which is the one which is more finicky than the other. My mind always tells me it's Postgres, but I don't understand why Postgres would be more finicky than SQLite. So it's probably SQLite that's more finicky. Because this would give us something like... I'll tidy this up afterwards. Insert job on root. What did I call it? With unique key. Context dot context. And then the params would be insert job root. I mean, I could just do it like this, just to keep it simple. Unique key string. String error. Insert job root with unique key. Insert a unique keyed root. It does nothing on unique key clash. Unique key. I want to go to the new line. Because, yeah, unique key clash. It does nothing on a unique key clash. It returns the inserted ID, in theory, which it doesn't work. Or will not work. And then we would have get a job ID by unique key. Get job ID by unique. Yeah, because we also made that too. Unique key string error. Get job ID by unique key resolves the ID of the job already holding the unique key. Unique key. I think I'm going to hold off on actually implementing these for now. Where am I? Just reminding myself how this all plums in, so to speak. Because this is the entry point in the dial core. This is the entry point where from there we insert the root as we do now. We can probably reuse the same entry point, but we wouldn't want to append a version if there is already an item in the database, I would assume. So we might need to have some sort of alternative enqueuing thing. Like, you'd say something like if spec dots. Hold on. Unique key. If spec dot unique key is set in any capacity, return, and then we'll say something like, I don't know, enqueue with dedupe. And then we effectively. I'm worried that this is a little bit disgusting and hacky. It feels disgusting and hacky. Because this would be something like insert job root with unique key, context, insert that is erroring probably because it's going to return two things, which would be the inserted ID which will not work, but that's fine because we're not implemented that yet. If I'm trying to think of how this flow will work. Because what I'm thinking is that if there the key thing is that we don't want to append a version if it already exists. So that's the bit that I'm trying to figure out the best way to handle this. I'm thinking that we might want to pass down, because from the inserted ID you don't get that context. You get that context from this error. So, we could say the inserted error. I'm thinking that what I'm going to do is, if the key already exists, I'm going to return SQL, the SQL error of there being no rows, even though I will receive a response, but because no insert happened. So it's no rows because an insert didn't occur. Which means, if I wish to handle it that way, then we would flip this logic around and would say something like inserted error. If it is nil, then this is the first time we've created the job root with this unique key. Which would mean we would want to do something like this. I've got rid of too many brackets, maybe? Oh no, that's perfect. And you would be something like this. So this is the happy flow. And then we would want something like resolved ID equals spec.id. But then we could set this like resolved ID equals inserted ID, return yeah, we have to return out of we have to return out of here so we're not erroring. And then we return resolved ID. Okay. So this is the transaction. So that's our happy flow. And then our unhappy flow would be allowing us to be more granular here. So then we could say if errors dot is SQL error no rows. I have no idea what I just did, but I jumped all the way to the bottom of the file. Okay, let's take a second. So if there's no rows, that means we have already had this happen before. And we could bubble up this information. Inserting unique job kind what am I doing? Kind quote string key and then the error. That'll be spec ID. Kind will be spec.kind, spec.key, spec.unique key, insert error. Yeah. So this bubbles up if it's any sort of other error like this. And now we want to actually handle if now we actually want to handle the flow where so this handles the flow if we try to add a unique key, and then that unique key doesn't exist yet. So this is just a nice happy flow, and we make a version for it. This handles if there's any other type of error, which now means below here, we will be able to handle if we specifically have the situation where there's no normal error in SQL, but that we have but there's a duplicate key that already exists. So if that's the case, we want to look up that entry so we can return its ID. So existing ID, and we'll call this the lookup error. Get ID by unique key. If everything goes well, let's worry about that first. If everything goes well, then we can just set resolved ID to existing ID and then be happy because it's not an error path. Now, if that doesn't work, we would just return something like this, wouldn't we? So format errorf, resolving duplicate for key. Unique key spec.key lookup error. Now, I guess if we wanted to be really helpful, what we could do is we could check if this got no response. Because if this gets no response, I mean, this may be a bit excessive what I'm doing now. If this gets no response, then we're really fucked. Because we're tripping on up on something we can't even find its job. Resolving duplicate for key. And this will look the same. But we could return a sentinel instead of the error that we get from SQL. So we're probably going to have to create a sentinel here. What sentinels do I have? Job not found. Let's use that one. So that's if we're really fucked. So this is in the dual core, so it allows us to use the same implementation for both backend engines. We created the ports here. They don't get implemented here. They get implemented in the drivers, like such. So let's implement the methods for SQLite. And this is where we're going to hit our barrier, because this is where it's going to break. So this is quite straightforward to implement because we're just making the stuff generated on this other port. I might in the future want to see if I can. You see, I don't know how many other people would ever want to use the query like I'm using the query. If anyone at all. So this is the bug. Is this is really what's meant to happen? So we're gonna have to try and fix that. ID params dot ID on my kind params dot kind. Yeah, I don't know if what I should do is I should have some sort of like generate this thing to this interface. Because if I could do that, then it would remove some of the layers from what I'm doing here. You know, some of this, like, just, boilerplate. What I don't know is if, like, in the age of AI, if people care about writing boilerplate or not. Or if it's just one of those things where it's like, attempts. What else do we have? Timeout and created at. Or for something where you just ask the AI to do boilerplate for you and you don't care about boilerplate. I mean, back in the day, there used to be so much of an emphasis on tooling that could remove boilerplate. That it's almost hilarious to think that practically no one cares about that anymore. It's a pointer. If doesn't equals nil, return. Because I think it would be nice to be able to remove some of this boilerplate if I could somehow generate some of the I don't say generate the boilerplate, but generate the missing bridging that's needed. So, where's this? Query SQLite, which means now I want to go to query Postgres and dump in the same code. So yeah, once again, this will not work. I'm going to do that anyway, just temporarily, before we dive into the querier. Because I think first I'd like to just keep working here. Because as soon as I do this, I'm going to have to commit what I've done, hop over to master, and then try and fix the querier itself. And I don't actually like working on the querier. So we have to do the same thing for Otter. So Otter is our database-less implementation. Let's say something like by unique key. By unique key maps a consumed unique key to the ID of the job that owns it. Let's see who makes this. New Otter Dal was here. By unique key. Yes, hold on. That's what I want. Make. Yeah. Then we can come down here to NQ. If spec dot unique key is set in any capacity, this is a lot simpler than the SQL one, I think. So we could say d by unique key spec dot unique key. Then we could do if existing ID, and then we could check if it's taken. Return existing ID nil. And then we jump into insert logged. And here we could probably just say something like this, which would be quite simple. If spec dot unique key, because if it's set, then d dot by unique key spec dot unique key equals spec.id. Which? Close all this. I think we're just now ready just to start plumbing everything down through the facade. So we start that in service. Trying to remember. Where do I define all my functional options again? I thought it was service. With clock, well, there's something. With notifier, with queues. So this would be an enqueue option, like these ones with run at. So this would be with idempotent potency key. Then we could just say something like key string request.unique key equals key. G key. And I'm noticing while I'm looking, I don't think I have with correlation key, which is what I did want. Correlation key is key. Is it correlation key or sorry. Correlation ID. ID. So that's nice. Which means that we can go into the facade and find these and dump in our new thing. Correlation ID. This is a key, string, key, ID, string, ID. Which means, and this will not work in any capacity, but at least it won't error. My test should fail, and the place that it should fail would be here. With how it's currently coded, I think it should create 2 entries. Correct. So, the reason why we're creating 2 entries is because of the glitch. The very frustrating glitch. So I'm gonna have a small relax, and then what I'm going to do, in fact, what I'm gonna do on this monitor before I do anything, I'm gonna open up this repo and get cracking. I am going to stage all my changes, commit them, and then I'm gonna check out master. So I'm on master now, which means this is now going to disappear. Yeah, it says that this file is no longer found. All these files are no longer found. So this is the master version of Pico. I'm going to make a branch called feature query query return issue. Turning pass issue. And before I dive into trying to fix it, I am going to have a drink and just unwind for a second. Unwind for a second, and then begin diving into this. So, just give myself good old stretch. Good old stretch. Glitches and ruin economies. Hello, Gutan. Gatton. How are you doing? Yeah, I love Golang. I've been working on my framework for it for the past few years, which is what I run all my software and applications that I use for my various clients, and that's what I'm working on today because I've been working on this on stream for the past few weeks, which is I want to have a new worker system. Because I always end up implementing a different worker system for each client, which each client I have, and I'm getting a bit fed up with it. So I want to have my own unified worker system in the in my framework. It's my goal is to build something I think a bit similar to River, but with all of the functionalities, but all their if you want to have the full functionality list that they provide, you have to pay. So my plan is to make it all open source. That's the plan, at least. Open up the right window. Where am I? So River Golang. My thing's all the way over to the side, but they put all this stuff behind Pro. It's managing jobs. So like things like dead letter queues. So basically the concept is if you want to have asynchronous tasks running in the background, then you want to run them in a reliable way. You want jobs to run specifically at the time you want them to run. You want them to run in the order you want them to run. Yeah, you can do it with Postgres because Postgres has listen. You can listen to things, and Postgres will be powering part of my system. But in my framework, this is my framework for Golang. The idea is that you can grow the complexity of what you want to do with your application. With a lot of these worker systems, they force you onto Postgres because they just want to use the listen functionality of Postgres. Whereas a lot of people don't need Postgres. Yeah, and it's great, but not. The point is that if you're forced to run a Postgres server, then you're inevitably using more resources than you need to use. And so one of the things I try and do with my framework is have layers of complexity which you can build up as your needs increase. And the reason why I have this is because I've been building software using this framework for, like I said, it's years now. I think I started this framework 5 years ago. And different clients I have come with different requirements, and some of them just want something small and simple to run. With a small memory footprint, they don't want to spend a lot of money on hosting. They don't want to have like a full-on dedicated database backend. They may want to just have an in-memory one like SQLite, and a lot of people underestimate how much you can run through SQLite. Like I got a few applications now with that are literally powering, real companies, quite a lot of concurrent use. And SQLite's fine if you configure it properly. SQLite can take a lot of data and a lot of load. And, if you can avoid paying, for a Postgres server, then, just do SQLite. And so Pico is this framework that, it's my framework for Golang. For doing this. And what I want to do is I want to have my worker system, for running background jobs and all of this, as another one of these scalable concepts where the amount of resources it uses grows with the amount of complexity you want from it, right? So the more complex a task you're doing, the more resources you can use to solve the task, right? And that's one of the reasons why I hate temporal. Is I've tried temporal a few times, and I know temporal targets enterprise, but in my experience, temporal is such a hog when it comes to um, wanting you to have so many resources available before you can do anything. It's such a hog. I don't like it. I don't like it. Yeah, in PHP, obviously by default, the thread, I guess you could say, is, or the process is limited to how long it takes to execute the script, right? So obviously in PHP, Laravel has a nice job system, and that's kind of the job system I'm trying to model, if that makes sense. Something similar to that. And giving you the control you need, similar to what River does. But the thing about River is they put so much behind paid, and I don't want to do that. I just want to make it all open source because Pico's open source, and River has a nice interface for allowing you to debug your jobs, and I'm planning to just make that open source too because I have my own internal observability tool for applications I make with Pico, and I plan to make that open source. Um, yeah, but if you're curious on checking it out, like I said, it's all open source. I'll put the link down. It's a beast of a project. The basis of it is it's like, I don't know if you've used Temple, but it allows you to do templating, like a single file component. Allows you to do templating where you can write your HTML and your Go script in the same file. And so it does server-side rendered templating. I have some examples, but the examples are, I need to rebuild the, see if I can move this over so it's nicer. I need to rebuild the WASM container because you can run it here in the browser. But it's, you know, and I need to, I'm trying to figure out the best way to, like, 1 second. Actually, yeah, let me just do this. That's easier. And I'll just do that for now. So this is an example on the website. I need to rebuild the WASM things because there's bugs, but the idea is that you can have your template here, which is your HTML, and you can have your server-side rendered Go code here, and then you know your styling down here. Not everything works in this interface. I need to rebuild it with some fixes. But as I make changes to the HTML here on the left, you'll see them updating on the right in real time. And that's because I wrote my own interpreter for the Go language. So it interprets the Go language so it can do real-time updates for things. And yeah, you can and the nice thing about this is because you can just put Go code here, you can, yeah, exactly. The thing is that I love Go. I love the fact that it compiles to a single binary. I love the fact that it's a real programming language. I also like, to a certain extent, with a certain level of disgust, I do like things like Vue.js. I don't want to say React. I'd probably throw up. But, you know, Svelte's nice too. And I do like how much power they give you in being able to churn out a nice looking front end. But at the same time, in saying that, I absolutely detest and hate the server-side rendered versions of them. So like Nuxt, Next, SvelteKit. I've never actually gotten into Angular. I've done Svelte, I've done Vue, I've done React, I've done Nuxt, I've done Next, I've done SvelteKit and all of that. But Angular is I've never gotten into Angular. Never got into Angular. So I can't make any comment there. But yeah, the idea is that I love how expressive those front-end languages are. But the thing is I hate trying to make them server-side rendered. And they become glitchy, they become slow, they become painful. I think the future is server-side rendered, everything server-side rendered. That's my personal belief. I believe the future is back to server-side rendered applications. It's so much faster for the user. It's so much better for SEO. It's so much better for AI, fundamentally. It's, you know, a lot of these AI crawling scripts can't crawl JavaScript. I know that they can, you know, obviously emulate Chrome with DevTools and all this, but most of the time they don't, right? They curl it, or they wget it, right? They can't process JavaScript. So I think the future is just fully going back to server-side rendered websites. And the other reason why I hate client rendered stuff is APIs. When you have a client rendered thing, you're inevitably calling an API all the time, and maintaining that API requires work, right? And you're always in this weird conflict where, are you making the API for your users, or are you making your API for your own website? And then inevitably what happens is you end up making a mutant API who doesn't know whose target audience is, and then you keep abusing your API and causing n+1 errors. So, you'll put multiple queries in a loop, or stuff like that, and slow down your whole application. Single page load requires 50 backend calls, right? Whereas when you have things server-side rendered, you don't have to worry about that. It's just beautiful. So, yeah. That's my personal belief. I could be wrong, but it has made it easier to build applications and websites for my clients. So, but that's what I'm trying to do. Basically create an entire Go ecosystem, which allows me to develop applications and websites faster. And inevitably, it turned into a bigger pickle than, what's the saying? We didn't start because we thought we didn't start because it'd be easy. We started because we thought it'd be easy. It's The Simpsons. Let me Yeah, this has obviously always, been my conundrum since I started this project, which was many years ago now. I've always known that ultimately the Go ecosystem, Go developers don't like frameworks. So this is also why the primary user for all of these years has been me, and me alone. And I've mostly seen it as a hobby project, if that makes sense. So, I've always just kept that in my mind, where what I'm going to do is I'm just going to focus on building it for myself and making myself happy and learning a lot on the way. And if anyone finds it interesting, then to worry about that then. But you are right. It's adoption. I expect if people do use it, it's mostly going to be interest that they themselves have, purely for hobby purposes, right? Like a curiosity. And I think that's the best way to describe it. It's like a curiosity. Then I'm not going to make any sort of claim or encouragement that obviously people should ditch the incumbents because they're too well, like I said, Pico's public now. It is usable now. I'm working on a lot of fixes for it. One of the things I'm trying behind the scenes is I don't think it's going to be possible. But I'm trying to see if I can get the rendering performance similar to Rust. Now, I'll never achieve it because Go inherently is never going to be as fast as Rust. But I'm seeing if I can get within the same ballpark, within the same tranche of performance, if that makes sense. But it is all publicly available on GitHub and all this. It is usable. I do use it in production. It's been in production for about 2 years now, I think. 2-3 years for different clients. but I know right now a lot of AI stuff is built around React, like Claude have their new design tool, which by default spits out React code. But I'm wondering if AI is going to shake up the incumbents more than we might expect, because ultimately, when you have AI-based development, I think the actual tools you use matter less. And the reason why I say that is one of the reasons why people like to use React is how humongous the React ecosystem is. In the sense of, if you want to just have a file manager in your system, you don't have to think, how do I create that myself? You just import something someone else has made, or like a graphing library or whatever it is, right? But if AI keeps going the way it's going, and what I mean by that is affordability, because right now AI is affordable, so providing it stays affordable, I'm wondering if in the future people are just going to be churning out more of their own shit, you know, and the incumbents looking powerful because they have so much libraries doesn't look so attractive anymore. But we'll see. We'll see. I ultimately think it's always going to stay, like I said, a bit of a curiosity of a framework. But right now I have an issue with my query system. So the way that Pico works is I don't have a I can't even remember the name now, an ORM. I have instead a system like SQLC, where it generates queries. It allows you to write your queries directly, so you have absolute control over the queries, but it generates the typing behind them. And we have an issue with the generation. And so that's going to be the task that I'm going to have to dive into, because it blocks me actually proceeding with implementing this code. All right. Yeah, thank you very much. And let me know if you have any thoughts. What I'm, like I said, there's a few fixes I have in the, there's a few fixes I have in the pipeline. So expect, lots of continual changes. I'm not actually, I decided to take a break from working on stuff for clients for a small period, because I was actually getting a bit too stressed out, I guess you could say. And so what I'm doing right now is I'm more calming down, and as a hobby I'm working on a lot of side projects that I have, and trying to really put the polish on Pico is one of those things that I'm working on right now. And I'm also working on a programming language, which I'm hoping to stream in the near future when it's a bit more mature, once I've got the direction of it a bit more. But I've really enjoyed the journey of working on this because it's been a gradual descent into doing more lower level programming as time's gone on. Because when I started with Pico, with a single file component, it kind of started, learning how programming languages work inherently, building an AST, Alexa, and all of that by scratch. And then after that, I dove into how to interpret the Go programming language, which taught me a lot, and I learned a lot about assembly. And now, building my own interpreter and the single file component and all this, I'm now just getting fully, into building my own programming language. So it's this is the type of thing that tends to excite me about software engineering, and the goal is to try and build more and more stuff. Open source and in that community aspect. So that's what I'm trying to focus on with the stream. And thank you very much to Alpha Zero for following me. Yeah. It's like a slow descent into madness to figure out how computers work. So this is all erroring because I went back to the master branch. So I'm no longer on my feature branch. So let's close everything. And the reason why I'm on the master branch is we want to see if we can fix this. Now, I'm probably not going to be able to fix this today, but at the very least, we can have a look what the problem could be. So the querier is my inbuilt SQLC-like system. And the reason why I built it is for a few reasons. I used to always use SQLC, and I love SQLC, but SQLC has two major flaws, and both architectural, which is why I made my own rather than contributing to SQLC. And the two major flaws of SQLC is that, one, it depends on Seago. And the reason why it depends on Seago is because they, in order to build it, he extracted all of the, for what I could see in the code at least, is he extracted all of the symbol information from Postgres, which gave it out in C. And then he's loading that into Golang in order to do what SQLC does. Now, the problem with that is that means that if I was to use that system, then Pico would be Seago mandatory, which I don't want. Pico does use things as Seago mandatory, but it should only be optional. The other reason why SQLC sucked is a bad word, because it's a very good piece of software. But the other reason why I didn't like the implementation with SQLC is because when I was looking at his source code to see what I could do with it, he tries to turn everything into Postgres. There's no agnostic core of SQLC. It tries to turn everything into Postgres, which is why the SQLite implementation is so buggy. It's because he's trying to map everything to Postgres. So really SQLC is, and it may be a bit unfair to say this, but it's Postgres and mapping everything to Postgres, even the MySQL implementation. So I wanted something more architecturally agnostic in its implementation. And then you can override parts of my system more easily to extend it to different database engines, which is why mine's been a bit easier to implement other database engines than SQLC, I think, has it. But that's why I have my own system not using SQLC. That's not why I have a bug. So I'm going to try and dive in to this for at least half an hour, if not an hour, and see what I'm able to figure out. WDK, DB engine. Let's only think about Postgres for now. Parser, DML. Yeah, thank you for the chat. It was really nice catching you. I hope you have a nice day. I'm thinking we could create a table test here and see if we can reproduce it without needing to spin up a database engine to test it. Because now this is a good place to put the test. This is a good place to put the test. Yeah. Yep. This is exactly where to put the test. So, new opening terminal. So before we do anything, I need to drink some water. Go test. What am I doing? Go test v run. So that should all pass. There should be nothing that fails. Even though I've been a bit slacking with making sure everything in this code base passes its tests. Okay. This is the perfect place to reproduce this, I think. Though maybe just to simplify things, and to make myself get slightly confused less, maybe let's just create a whole new table test. And then I can just focus on what it is I'm actually doing. So func test analyze query insert Assad, my computer's asking for the Wi-Fi password. Am I still connected? Let's have a look. Okay, I think I'm still connected. Though I might have lost YouTube. Let me just double check. I always have issues with streaming consistently to YouTube. Okay, I think it's fine. Okay. What was I doing? I was let's get test on conflict. So the issues with Pico. The issue was on conflict returning. Insert on conflict returning. T testing T dot parallel. This is just processing with the the data manipulation language. So there's no actual communication with the backend here. So new Postgres catalog. Let's create our SQL. Let's create a test table. Expected params int. So let's just validate that it processes things as expected. So let's say name. Well, let's think of the first query actually. SQL. Insert into, let's say users. I'm trying to remember, do I have like a dummy, yeah, I have a dummy catalog I have to comply to. So it's users, ID, name, email. And we have posts, ID, user ID, title. Where was I? I've lost myself. Okay. Insert into users, name, email, values, 1 and 2. On conflict, email, where email is not null, do nothing, returning ID. That's basically what I did before, but a simplified version. Do nothing with do nothing, returning. Expected params. I need to think about this a bit more, what I'm actually testing. Let's, we'll build the rest of the test cases, but let's just get the harness in place first. So, how do I do this? Analyze query. I'm glad I got the debugger to work because this is the moment where we are going to be having to use the debugger. And I'm going to have to use the debugger to also know what it is I'm testing. Because I am trying to remind myself to say not nil, we need a response. Let's start simply. So, I'm hoping that... hold on. Wait a minute, this does work. This does work. Okay, I was pausing for a second because I was concerned that I didn't get Z working in this folder structure with the debugging, but it looks like it does. Oh, of course it's going to work, because the reason why I couldn't get Z to work in the other one was because of build tags, where this file doesn't have build tags on it. So yeah, that would work. It's later than I thought it was, so I might want to stop this actually, and then continue this tomorrow and get this working tomorrow. So analysis has returning. This is it, because that's the fault. That's fundamentally the fault. That's the fault. That's the fault. Assert true. So somehow my analysis has failed. Returning is not set. Has failed to be properly defined. And output columns is nil. Output columns is nil. So this would be require len t analysis.output columns is, let's say all of my tests have to be 1. And let's say for simplicity purposes that all of my tests will try to return ID. So assert equal t ID, and then we'd want to prove that in output columns in the first entry the name is the inferred one, so we want name would be ID. I could drop this expected params thing, or I could just use it. Let's just use it. Require len analysis dot parameter references. This would be test case dot expected params. So I don't know if there's any other tests we want to do initially, or if we just want to dive into this one. I think one thing we would want to do is not do nothing, is do set, which is a clear sister of what it is we're doing here. So this would be like do set where email is not null. Where email is not null, do set name equals 3, which would give us a third param. So let's concern ourselves with these two tests for now. So once again, this now entirely fails in every capacity. So this should be a total failure. Yeah. They're both broken. Now, I think I'm going to have to stop here because it's too late. If I don't go to bed soon, the birds will be up. Um, hold on. The problem isn't returning. Because you work. Uh, you work. Because I still only get 2 fails. Returning works. Something makes returning fail. Can you do without where? No, you need on conflict to do. SQL do. Let me remind myself of the actual language of do. You can just do. Execute anonymous code block. Okay. Postgres do on conflict. How do these interact? Technically. We are reading AI summaries. Can you on conflict without do? That's what I thought. They're married. They're married. I think I just don't handle this ever. Just check my tests on. See, I'm surprised I don't handle this. That's what I'm. So this is what I just wrote. Like, I even have a test scenario for it. And I return. Did I not analyze this test scenario enough? Maybe it's always been wrong. Output columns. Wait a minute, is it working here? As returning. Why does it have output columns? Why does this one work? Or does it work? Hmm. Well, I'm gonna have to stop anyway because it's getting too late. Got two tests like this. Two golden tests like this. Maybe I broke it and I've not run the golden tests recently enough. I have been slacking with running the full test suite. Maybe I broke it at some point recently. Okay, I'm gonna stop here. It's too late. Thank you to everyone who participated in the stream, and yeah, I hope everyone has a nice evening. And we'll try and crack this egg in the next stream. I just realized I wasn't sharing what I was looking at. I was looking at the fact that when I searched for it, I did actually have regression tests on this concept, and the regression tests did find things for the output columns. But what I notice is there's no has returning here. So I don't know if this is out of date and I need to rerun it. And if I need to find a way to assure that these don't get out of sync again, because maybe I broke it. If I did break it, then chances are the fix is actually really tiny. Because that means I probably broke it recently. What it also means is that I may have been depending on regression tests and not actually having this ever as a unit test, which I now do. So that would also justify why it broke if it was working before. Now I have it as a unit test because probably I didn't see that the don't I have in this file pass trailing offset, pass compound query, skip, pass, pass. Pass on conflict. Conflict. If keyword on maybe? Hold on. I don't know if I've seen it or not. Hmm. I thought, do the debugger. I really should stop. I really should stop. I really should stop. I want to get rid of you because you work. The thing that's confusing me is it feels like this logic did work once. It did work once. Did work once. On conflict. Do set. This is going to work. You're going to work. Hold on. Get rid of that for now. Wait. It's the where. It's the predicates. No, it's not the predicates. Because that's what's different here. Do update. Oh. So now I'm wondering if it does actually always work here. That works. That works. Hmm. Do update. I don't know if you can do that. Okay. One of the problems is that this it doesn't handle predicates. That's one of the problems. That's one of the problems. It doesn't handle predicates. So what we need is we need something like p dot skip conflict target predicate. Func p parser skip conflict target predicate. And then we could say if expect keyword. What do we have? We have match keyword. Where was I? If p dot match keyword. What keyword where return. P dot skip. Skip tokens until terminator set, and then I have to create a terminator set. And they're created at the top of the file. Can I? Hold on. How did I do this last time? I split right. Go to the top of the file. On conflict target predicate terminators map string struct yep do keyword returning. What did I do wrong? It would help if I could spell the word struct. Now this would only fix it for this. Oh, I don't know if this is gonna fix it, but it would only fix it for Postgres. Unfortunately, this isn't a problem in the core. This is a problem for the language. Hey, it didn't fix it, but look, I get less errors. In fact, actually, only one of them is erroring. I fixed one of them. I fixed one of them. Which one did I fix? Or I can just read the name. Do nothing returning works. Do nothing returning now works. So this one now works. This one still fails. It's probably because of the set part. Okay, we got one of them working. I'm gonna try and figure out how to fix the other one. And then push this up. I don't know why the other one would be failing still. Did I miss something? Did I do the test wrong? I mean, that's not improbable. I did do the test wrong, didn't I? Because this should be do update, actually. I fixed it. Insert on conflict returning on conflict target predicate returning. Okay, I'm gonna have to fix this for every engine, annoyingly. But that shouldn't take too long. And then once that's merged in and I've rebased, then we're very close to finishing the third point, which brings us closer to having something basic working. Okay. Well, anyway, thank you to everyone who participated, and I hope you'll have a nice evening. Yeah. Thank you very much. Bye bye.